Hey guys, and welcome to another MTG spoiler/lore review. Let's continue exploring some of the more influential characters finally seen print in Commander 16. In this video, let's take a look at one of the more anticipated and sadly disappointing characters to get a card, Ludvic, Necro-Alchemist. 1/4 legendary creature, human wizard for 1 generic and Izzet colors. At the beginning of each player's end step, that player may draw a card if a player other than you lost life this turn. It also has Partner, allowing it to be played with a second commander if it also has Partner. So this is a fairly cheap but weak static commander that has a really subpar ability. Sure, card draw is great, but it's not guaranteed, and worse still, it grants the benefit to your opponents as well. It encourages them to attack opponents other than you, sure, but it's probably not enough, especially for a commander. Blue-red seems to love card draw nowadays, and this may seem like a sensible continuation of that. Still, it's not that great. As a partner, Ludvic would of course be paired with his ultimate creation, Crom, Ludvic's Opus, a 4/4 legendary zombie horror for 3 generic and Izzet colors. It has flying, haste, and whenever an opponent casts his or her second spell each turn, draw a card, of course also having Partner. So Izzet continues to draw cards, this time punishing your opponents for playing multiple spells a turn, a better overall effect compared to Ludvic, but at a much higher cost with only 3 more attack. Again, I think it could make a fine commander, but both Crom and his creator feel really off in their card design. I know I'm not the first person to notice or mention this, it's far from a controversial stance, but these cards don't match the character's flavor at all. Now, while I have a lot to talk about on that topic, I'm gonna save it for the end of the video and keep it centralized on the cards and their lore for now. But believe me, I have a pretty strong opinion concerning Ludvic and his card. So now that I've gotten myself triggered, let's move on to this famous scientist's lore. If you played during the original Innistrad block, or even with our return in Shadows over Innistrad, then you probably have at least a small idea of who Ludvic is. He's the quintessential mad scientist of Innistrad, the original frenzied genius, creator of monsters, and great explorer of the mysteries concerning life. He also happens to be completely batty. To those who pass him by, he appears as nothing more than an elderly merchant, peddling his wares off the coastal shores of Nephalia. Yet, little do they know that this successful merchant uses his fortune to fund his true passion, scientific exploration into the mysteries of life and death. Ludvic is a stitcher, someone versed in the art of reanimating corpses through the patching and replacement of body parts. These various parts come together to form a moving abomination. While outsiders see a horrific monster, Ludvic sees mental triumph. As a result of his unique field of work, many of his fellow citizens don't really appreciate the gravitas of his creations. In fact, those impacted by some of his more ambitious creatures have taken up arms against them rather than just letting them live out their days. So, who's truly the monsters here? Their irrational panic is seen on Grounded from Avacyn Restored. Alina, Trapper of Kessig, says, "We've tracked Ludvic's monsters across 4 provinces. When it lands, make sure it stays put." So naive in thinking they can stand between this man and his great work. Of course, when his opponents attack in such a vulgar manner, he's forced to respond in kind, with even more dangerous creations, as we see here on Scrapskin Drake from Avacyn Restored. The Cathars killed my scabs down below. Let's see how high their swords can reach. That's the spirit, Ludvic. When they go low, you go high. Hey, that should be a campaign slogan. All Ludvic's doing is taking things people don't want and putting them into something amazing. Where's the harm in that? In Makeshift Mauler from Innistrad, he puts it plainly. "It always amazes me what perfectly good things people throw away." See? He's clearly a man who recycles. But of course, with age comes experience. But he won't be able to perform these miracles forever. Ludvic's no fool. He understands the fleeting nature of mortality better than most. So, of course, he thinks of the legacy he'll leave on once he's gone. Like the master of any fine trade, Ludvic searched for a fellow stitcher to mentor and teach, one worthy of his great knowledge, and he believed he found one in the young Giraffe. After seeing a number of this up-and-coming stitcher's abominations terrorize the populace of Innistrad, he extended to him an invitation as seen on Seagraph's Scab from Shadows over Innistrad. Your recent work is an inspiration. I have the utmost respect for your approach, and your craft is impeccable. At your convenience, I would be honored to collaborate on a project. And it seems the young giraffe has accepted this veteran's proposal, as he works with Ludvic on some of his greatest achievements, including Prize Amalgam, saying Ludvic's laboratory is a veritable wonderland. I never felt so inspired. Through their joint experiments, Giraffe has discovered the driving motivation for this aging Necro-Alchemist. Sure, the search of life and death is admirable, but that's not what Ludvic is searching for. See, he's fascinated by human thought and emotions, especially those dealing with fear. The reactions the common folk have to his creations are just as important as the creation itself. He lives to observe, analyze, quantify fear. Ludvic explains himself a little further on the card Hysterical Blindness from Innistrad. The panic is amusing, but the real fun comes when the spell passes and the villagers start looking for a scapegoat. Obviously, these two figures working together could usher in a new age for Innistrad, finally putting to rest the case of which form of necromancy is better. The Stitchers could finally prove a case and prevail over the necromancers. Ludvic himself has been a powerful figure in MTG lore for a long time now, and him getting his own card was long overdue. I personally thought he should have had a card printed in the Shadows over Innistrad block, since Giraffe didn't get his own dedicated card, but that's just a personal opinion of mine. Nevertheless, any card in any format was highly anticipated by the community, and boy were we disappointed. Like I said before, the card for Ludvic just doesn't seem to fit what we know about the character. He's a mad scientist who spent a lifetime perfecting the art of reanimating random body parts, creating horrible beasts, zombies of true destructive properties. So, when he finally got a card, what does it do? Duh, gives you and your opponent's cards. Wait, what? No, that's not Ludvic! He works with zombies, reanimates, preys on people's fears! Where in his lore does it suggest that he gives people cards? I know they made up a pretty weak grab at a connection between its effect and its lore, but come on! You know it's way off mark, Wizards. They also gave him partner, I guess because of his new relationship with Giraffe, but really, he's been working on experiments apparently alone for his entire life. He's a lone, mad scientist, but I can at least see why they added it from a lore perspective. Mark Rosewater explained that when designing cards, they don't always go top down, meaning they don't take the character then create appropriate abilities for it. Sometimes they do, sure, but in this case, they didn't. So basically they had this Is It card with card draw and were like, stick Ludvic on it, people want that, right? Personally, I feel like that's the completely wrong way to look at this. I'd much rather wait to see a card which lives up to the character's lore than get something as disappointing as this. Ludvic, Gissa, Giraffe, all these characters literally represent a sphere of culture on an entire plane. Innistrad can be symbolized by these figures. To give any of them an ability unbefitting of what they represent just shouldn't be done. Now, do I think it was a mistake? Yes. Do I think Wizards should be drawn and quartered for it? Of course not. They made a mistake thinking they were giving us what we wanted. Let them know your disappointment, as I am with this video, so they can make better, more informed decisions in the future. Maybe one day, when we return to Innistrad again, we'll see Ludvic as he's truly meant to be. But for now, his card will stand as a huge target missed by Wizards of the Coast, and hopefully a reminder of how powerful flavor can be in Magic the Gathering.